All right. Well, you've already heard me talk a lot, so I'm really here just to facilitate a conversation between these very, very illustrious people in the gaming industry. Thank you so much for being here. Maybe we can go down the line and just very quickly introduce yourselves to our lovely audience. Michael, why don't you go ahead and start?
Hi, everyone. My name is Michael Lee. I'm the Director of Corporate Development at Com2us. Com2us is a mobile gaming company based out of South Korea, mobile developer, publisher. We have a hit title called Summoner's War that's been in service for over 9 years now. It's done over $3 billion in revenue. Since then, we transitioned into a transmedia company, so we now own an entertainment company and music companies as well. And we have announced that we're going all in on Web3. So happy to be here. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Fernando Vasconez. I'm a Senior Director of Business Development for this startup that make phones, Samsung. So thanks for having me here, please.
Hi, I'm Rian Rabinowitz. I work at Polygon, blockchain, L2, Ethereum scaling solution. And I'm on the BD team. I oversee our gaming pipeline, and it's great to be here.
Hi, I'm Sebastien Borget. I'm the CEO and co-founder at the Sandbox. We're building a decentralized virtual world where anyone can become a creator and start using their 3D content to make their own games, share them with other players, and monetize them the way they want.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here. All right, so the topic of this panel is the coming multiverse, and there will be many more panels on the multiverse, and one that ends tomorrow's programming as well. But the one today we're focusing on from Web 2 to Web 3. Now, I feel like those of us in Web 3 use this phrase a lot more. How do people get from Web 2 to Web 3? People in Web 2, for the most part, are kind of fine there. So for you guys, because you have so much experience bridging these two spaces in the industry, what does it mean to you to go from Web 2 to Web 3? When you're looking at a game that is curious about Web 3 and they're asking, what do I need to do to make the transition or to make this offering possible, how do you answer them? Maybe Sebastien, I can start.
All right, so I think we've done not too bad of a job to onboard over 400 partners already on the platform and really showcase them what a Web3 means in terms of possibility, in terms of change of mindset.
Yeah.
Usually we recommend them 5 things, like to take a very creative approach, first of all, and Sandbox is a platform that empowers with user-generated content, so very aligned with the idea of giving control to your audience, your fan, your community to participate into co-creating the content with you. I think it's also about rather than trying to extract value from your user, first giving them a maximum of value and redistributing that value among all the actors of the production, from the platform, from the game, and the players. It's also about embracing this idea that in Web3 we are community driven and we are collaborating with other actors in the space. It's a win-win formula where the network effect are actually being amplified when you bring your players and you allow them to go into other games and vice versa, thanks to interoperability, for example. And yes, I think we also try to recommend them don't look yet at monetizing, it's still very early. Look more experimenting, learning, making mistakes, but trying over again and being very close to your community and users until we figure out what will be the ultimate business model in the space.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's fantastic. And from the perspective of someone who is encouraging Web 2 to explore Web 3, it's nice to know that you don't necessarily have to have a token. You probably shouldn't have a token to start with. You don't necessarily have to have in-game assets that are NFTs. You figure out sort of what works for your audience as you release the game. Other thoughts on this question?
Yeah,
move on?
Sebastien touched on a really important point, which is community. Right. I think that is a huge issue right now in the industry of user acquisition, especially on the mobile world, right? User acquisition costs are going to the roof, and it's gonna get worse and worse, right? With updates that are coming on, on Android and all that. And then if Web2 companies there start looking how passionate the Web3 community is, right, and start building up those communities, it really is going to improve like the ROAS, right? The return on ad spend to building those communities. So you're not necessarily getting that player to convert him to start spending money, but you're getting that player to really join a community and be passionate about it. And if you build a community strong enough, you're definitely going to have your whales, right? And those whales eventually is going to trickle down, to generate massive amounts of revenue.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm actually hearing a lot of themes of a lot of the principles for building a great Web3 game are kind of the same principles for building a great Web2 game. And a lot of the things that you have to keep in mind for Web2 go-to-market also apply to Web3 go-to-market. So why is it that Web2 is finding it so hard then to get into Web3? Maybe Michael, because you guys, Come To Us, obviously, it needs no introduction when it comes to gaming, but you also have a chain now called Expla.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's first of all, there's so much regulatory risk. That's huge. There's also something called, creating a sustainable economy. It's already hard enough to do that in Web 2. You add on a token to Web 3. Now you're just making it even harder, and then you have a whole ecosystem to work with. It's just, I think, there's so many ways for it to kind of crumble apart if you don't do it right. You don't architect it correctly, and so I think those are like the things that just kind of come off the top of my head. I do want to go back to the regulatory side because I think that is something everyone is really taking a step back and making sure doing this in a way that is okay with what governments and whatnot. For us, every single block that we've had reproduced have been audited by PwC for that reason, and so yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. So stop me if this is something you can't reveal, but I generally like to get into the nitty gritty of operations of some of these orgs. So Come To Us. Obviously, you have no shortage of people there who know how to design a good game. So once they come up with, say, a new game design and you're starting to work on a new title, is the first meeting with a product person on the Web3 side, or is the first meeting with a legal person?
It goes at the same time, different tracks at the same time. Right?
Yeah.
It's hard. Great games take a long time to build. We've launched now 9 games that have some sort of a Web3 element to it, and on average, those games took maybe 4 or 5 years to build.
Yeah.
And so we're starting off, taking small steps. That means, we didn't start with Web3 in mind when those games were built, but as they were being built and as we saw the potential of Web3, we kind of took a pause on it and kind of rethought how we can introduce a sustainable token model. And so, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Rian, we hear this theme of experimentation when you're trying to find the right Web3 gaming model or business model. So one of the things that Polygon has emphasized from the very beginning is how do we make it as easy and as affordable as possible for games and other applications to be able to build on Web3. And because of that, you guys have seen really the lion's share of the traffic. And your product team has learned a great deal about what it is that Web3 developers really need, especially those who know gaming. They're just coming into Web3 for the first time. So what are some of the themes that you're hearing?
There's a lot of themes. I think it depends on who you're looking at. We tend to find that there's 2 real archetypes of game developers. You have kind of the Web3 natives that I would argue are not really tried and true game developers. They're really bullish on the crypto aspect, but need a little bit more hand-holding when it comes to things like traditional UA and go-to-market and designing an interesting Web 2 economy. So their needs are very different than what we're seeing from the traditional Web 2s, which really understand all the UA side. They understand the gaming, but they are a little bit nervous by the crypto speak. And I think that just, you asked what's, I guess, preventing some of these people from jumping in, and it's really, the term NFT is a dirty word. And so really abstracting that away, I think, from the gaming experience is the best approach currently in the industry to really create an experience that can appeal to mainstream gamers while still, introducing the concept of a custodial wallet or tokens, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you think about sort of the transition, now obviously in order to build a Web3 game, you have to learn how to develop in Web3. And so oftentimes we think of the flow as going from Web 2 to Web 3. But what about the other way around? Like, how easy or hard is it for Web3 native developers who know things like validators and NPC endpoints and smart contracts and all that? How easy or hard is it for them to spot the opportunity in Web3 gaming, because it's a huge opportunity, and actually like get good at it?
So with Web3 teams, a lot of them are not targeting gamers. Like, let's be real. A lot of them are speculators and traders, and that's kind of been the demographic that they're targeting. Like, which gamer wants to spend upwards of $1,000 to play a game? Like, not that many. So there's a lot of education. I think a lot of it, to be honest, is on the go-to-market. We hear just these wild expectations of like expected users, or when an alpha or beta is going to be ready. And I think as they get a little bit deeper in the process, they realize just how complex building like a game is. So I'd say the marketing is a huge component. A year ago, tokenomics was big, but we've found that a lot of games still incorporate tokens right now.
I think there's a little bit more than that too, right? It's not necessarily on the marketing, and also on the tech stack. Because when you're building up a game, I think so on Web3, they forgot the concept of live ops, right? Where you're going to change and you're going to look in the data and you're going to target your users and you're going to continue engaging that on a weekly basis, right? So, and then that's one of the things that's forgot. They bring these models and all that stuff and then say like, if they build, they will come. They will never come. That's the reality, right? And then I disagree a little bit on your point in terms of like the people that are going to pay $1,000, right? If you look at the industry, right? So looking at mobile, you have what we call whales, right? And then you have like these leagues on different type of games that people, they spend like $10,000, $50,000 a month, and even more. I mean, but they just going for the experience. I mean, you know the MMOs in your country.
I mean, I've been smiling this whole time because. So I come from a product producer background before I got pulled into the business side, and launching a title was the hardest thing I've ever done in my career. It's so hard. People think creating a game is hard. It is very hard, but even once you do that, you gotta launch it and make it successful. And being Web3 native, I don't think you quite understand that aspect of it, because that's not the part people think when they're creating games, right? You're just creating the game. And so, like if 80% of the work is creating the game, then there's another 80% in launching the game, and it doesn't make sense. But that's how difficult it is. It's a hits-driven industry.
Yeah, and sustaining, right? Because those games, I mean, if you look at major companies, you need to build games that are going to be sustainable for 3 to 5 years. Right? And then how are you going to get the attention span of your client, or especially your community, to sustain that for a period of like 3 to 5 years.
And so, going back to answering your question, what's the transition like from Web 3 to Web 2? I think it's very difficult. I think there could be a transition from Web 2 to Web 3. But if you don't have that experience and you're trying to build success, I think that's very, very difficult. Not to say that's not possible, but it's very.
Absolutely. Sebastian, what do you think?
Maybe I'd like to add a bit of a perspective like this, because it's one way to look at it, and I've been in the gaming industry, the traditional one, with free-to-play user acquisition for over 10 years. And well, it's a system, it's built on itself, and it's actually it leads toward like a decrease of innovation, a repetition of like copying, and just feeding the platform that collects the data on behalf of us. So developers have to pay platform back to get users to survive into this model. And so if you always try to evolve within the same model, like how do you get something new and change like the rules of the game? Web3 is not maybe the only answer, but it's an interesting answer. A platform like Sandbox is bringing new creators, people who never made games before, so they are fresh, they have new ideas, they can invent new gameplay. I think it's been 10 years in the App Store. I've not seen a game that is not a match-3 / RPG / a city builder or / a MOBA. It's just like refining and repeating those all the time. So it gets boring, frankly speaking. Web3 has brought some innovation. It's iterated faster. Like in 3 years, we've seen already a great wave of different gameplays, mechanics, guilds, community incentive, play to earn, and the many variants of it. It's very exciting. And it's also trying to solve a problem where like the platform are not controlling the user and the data. And the games can actually reinvent their user acquisition model by shifting where they put the value back, not into the advertising network and the platform, but back into the communities, into guilds, into new roles that create a myriad of new possibilities on how games, even the simplest games, can be thought. The fact that you own assets, it builds your player value over time in your wallet. And even if you stop playing a certain game, it doesn't mean that your player value decreased back to zero and everything, all the time you spent, all the content you purchase, all your creation are lost, and all of that goes to zero. Like, it's actually being able to be transferred across game, and that value will accrue over time. So that's why spending hundreds of dollars in asset over time
I get it, but
can lead to a different outcome and can change.
For sure, but ultimately it comes down to the community, right? If you don't have a product that community is going to engage, right, eventually your community dies out, right? So it's kind of like a self-fulfilling loop that needs to go in, right? I think so is the two things, right? You need to have, for example, product, but you need to have also the community.
We've seen models like Kickstarter. I think the community model where a lot of projects fund themselves by selling NFTs and then building a product. It's not new. It existed before with Kickstarter. It led to big failure and it led to
because
great
the product
success.
was not good.
Yeah,
the product was not fun.
Absolutely.
People didn't want to go there and then spend it an idle game or something like that. It needs to be engaged, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's about entertainment. Why? I mean, just thinking why, for example, some sitcoms is saved for 7 years, right? Running out the thing because it's fun. You just go in there and engage and you entertain for that.
But look at game history as well. Like idle clicker games, they were not invented until the 2000 with the co-clicker game at the Flash.
Yeah.
So
sure.
the gameplay iteration, the gameplay innovation, I haven't seen that for a long time in Web 2. So
we do have UGC, right? Things that have been done, right? User-generating content.
But where the value from that all those creators are contributing on platforms like Roblox, Minecraft, AI is being taken away from them. So that's why a new model is needed still. And that's a bit to your point. We need to empower the creator generation to own their data and to monetize the value they bring. So it doesn't only get back to the stores and the distributors. But I agree, I'm full about UGC. I've been in space for a year, and I feel the problem. That's why we built Sandbox on the blockchain.
Got it.
Yeah, there's definitely the creator aspect to it, but there's also the player aspect to it, spending the time and kind of thinking of it in that direction as well. So, I think that kind of aligns with what you're saying.
No, this is a fascinating discussion. Let me sort of, kind of put a fine point on it. This is also something that we hear a lot when it comes to transition between Web 2 to Web 3 gaming, or how do we make Web 3 gaming real. There is a huge, Moby Dick-like hunt for that first AAA Web 3 gaming title. How important do you think that actually is?
I think that's very, very important, but I also think, there's a panel on this tomorrow, but I think the user experience just needs to kind of be there. It's just, it's not there. There's so much friction right now, and I was just having a conversation with a friend on this. You can have a hit title, and you can have, let's say the hit title has 100 million users. How are you going to convert those users to Web3 if the conversion of converting them to trying out whatever Web3 element, if it's a token economy, to get a token. Right now, it's so difficult, right? You're going to have to go to an exchange, create an account, look for the token, get the token, send it to a wallet. It's just by then you've gotten rid of your funnel, right? And if you want to add on to it.
Sure, I cannot. I recognize there's a lot of challenges through that user journey, right? And every step adds toward the funnel. I think you don't necessarily need to think in terms of AAA to get successful game. What the gaming industry has told us is hyper casual is capable to drive hundreds of millions of players with the simplest, dumbest game as possible with graphic that are being made in 1 week.
Yeah.
What's interesting is the more you widen the choice for users, the more you have different kind of gameplay, the higher the chance you bring new users in, and then it flows whilst the economy is behind.
But I do want to say I think that hit title is going to be very, very important. But for that to happen, there needs to be that user experience that allows that.
It needs to be fun.
Yeah.
People need to engage.
I think it's super interesting because on the one hand, I think that having a AAA title that has Web3 technology incorporated into it, I mean, in terms of proving the value of this technology, I mean, there really are few greater platforms with which you can do that. But at the same time, we're big believers in the approach that Web3 brings this incredible speed of experimentation to new forms of gameplay, game design. And so, to my mind, when someone says to me, when is that AAA title coming? How do we prove that Web3 gaming can sustain this really massive title that's going to bear revenue over many, many years? My response to that generally is, TikTok has validity despite the fact that Marty Scorsese has not taken one of his 5-hour movies and spliced it into 500 videos. It's a different art form. And so I think that, honestly, Web3 gaming, the great, archetype of the Web3 game, probably has not been found yet or hasn't gotten that kind of traction yet. It's something that we haven't seen before, which is probably not a really super encouraging or stabilizing thing to say at a summit like this. But I really do I really do think that we haven't quite found that really hit game design yet. But we need to give game developers the freedom to be able to find that. At least that's my feeling on it.
And I think it's important to be real like that.
Yeah.
It's not all,
Yeah, no. I mean, I do think that it could be something like Angry Birds or Candy Crush. It could be something like Shrapnel, which we'll be speaking tomorrow. But, people have fun with games for many different reasons. And I think that the same person can a AAA, hugely produced first-person shooter game. They can also love to just, move candy around on their phone. It can be the same person. Incredible. All right, so in terms of the UGC aspect, we're probably going to end the panel with this. UGC obviously I think it's a match made in heaven for Web3 and being able to really control your intellectual property, allow other people to contribute to it. When do you think we're going to see that flip happen, that a UGC heavy platform like a Roblox, for instance, or a Minecraft or a Fortnite, it starts to see the revenue opportunity, frankly, with respect to these Web3 assets or Web3 components to their intellectual property, and then start to actively incorporate it? Do you think at any given point these massive titles or gaming companies are going to let go of that control a little bit in favor of chasing that revenue opportunity?
Well, one of the reasons that Sandbox exists,
the answer is no.
The answer is most likely no. At least Minecraft and Microsoft have made a pretty big public statement around NFT that they will not use it. I think Roblox has developed such an economy and went public on IPO.
Yeah.
I think they're worth 60 billion, something
Yeah.
like that now.
Yeah.
Just with the economy of Robux. And their target audience being also mostly underage, 13 and below, it's going to be hard for them to introduce that component.
Yeah.
I still believe it's a big miss in a sense. What's important at the end of the day is the creation belongs to you, and that you could eventually take them out of the platform. That's what Sandbox as a platform is offering. Attracting a new breed of creators thanks to its no-code tool, enabling users to own their avatar, use it anywhere else, and also import avatars from other games and other NFT projects. Mm-hmm. So we're building on that basis, and from the first day we started to build the Sandbox with blockchain. I remember investors were asking us, what if Minecraft has NFT? What if? You have to build it from the ground up. You cannot add an economy which could have a fixed supply asset on a game that is already live with an infinite supply of copy, and where you cannot trust the main central operator of that platform, because they have been already shutting down accounts, taking all the content, changing the valuation of the currency at any time, any point of time, without consulting the community.
I completely agree. I think Roblox is going to take an approach of what Apple or the app stores are doing, which is just waiting as long as humanly possible before they take a stance. But I could tell you that the top Roblox developers have reached out to us. They're kind of sick and tired of the tried and true, and want to build new experiences. So I think those are the types of individuals that will ultimately force the hand of some of these larger, more traditional Web 2 players to actually change.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, Polygon has no shortage of experience working with large enterprise, I mean, across many different industries, but particularly in gaming. So when you have those, customer success or sales conversations with these enterprises, and they're like, yeah, everything's going to remain the same. It's just this little like NFT drop is what we're going to do. Like, how do you guys like gently tell them you might want to think bigger?
Look, at the end of the day, our approach is we're not selling crypto to people that are not interested in it. Like, my job is not to convince somebody because it's a losing argument. So it's more along like working consultatively with partners that are already experimenting with NFTs, letting them kind of go step by step, doing one small drop and then, regrouping and saying, okay, this was great, but like, let's do X, Y, and Z to make it that much better. And ultimately it's going to take time. Like, everything that we're seeing right now is more or less like proof of concepts. And so I hate to say like, let's wait another 12 months because it feels like that's always what we're waiting on. But I really do think 2024, when we start seeing some of these really exciting titles, like Shrapnel come out, that will finally, like the ball will actually get rolling.
Yeah. And for now, I mean, I can't think of another company out there that has really kick-ass presence in gaming. You've got a hugely captive market in Korea and the rest of East Asia, and you have the phone, you have the mobile wallet. So I have to think that you guys are in the catbird seat of how do you figure this out? How do you figure out the bridging of the Web 2 to Web 3 user experience for gaming? And how are you guys thinking of incorporating like that huge advantage that you have in each of those key positions?
I cannot comment on that.
Okay. No. Sorry, I don't mean to put you in that position. But put it this way. I mean, I'm sure like you're here and you're thinking about Web3 gaming because the opportunity exists.
Yeah, the opportunity exists.
Okay. All right.
I mean, we've already gone out saying, public saying, we're all in on Web3.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're figuring things out. It's going to take a while. Free to play wasn't done overnight. It took
Yeah.
many, many years.
Yeah.
We're literally in the beginning stages of Web3. And we're in for the ride and we're committed to the space.
Absolutely. Woo. Love to hear that. All right, amazing. So I want to thank all of our wonderful panelists for a really fascinating talk. I always leave this for the end of panels. Anything that I did not ask that you would like to put out there? Because whenever we welcome our speakers on, obviously we want to give them some airtime, although Bryson's right here. So.
Oh, no, you're fine.
We're fine? Okay.
I just wanted to get closer. I wanted to feel some of the genius rubbing off on me.
Any last words for the audience or any questions for each other, for Saga? Any last thing you want to offer? Because after this is dinner, so.
I think they just want to hear my voice again.
Okay.
Well, maybe I'd like to thank you, every one of you, for being here. It's like really crowded audience.
Yeah.
And it's specifically in the Web3 and crypto market. It's more of like the winter. So that proves like you're here for the technology, you're here for the innovation, you want to change the rules of gaming behind, and you're either curious or already into it. And that's a good sign. Like you're still at the right position to build. Like the previous generation of game and platform like Sandbox were built exactly at those moments during bear market and focusing on experience, content, products, and the right incentive. So maybe a big round of applause to yourself for being here.
Oh, no, thank you. Thank you to all of you, our wonderful family and community. Thank you, guys.